It's all good. It's all good.
Big love, big love. So pumped. All right. All right. So we were just talking about how you had been circling 9,000 times since you started.
Yeah, like I calculated about 4 years ago, and it was like up to 6,000 then. So I imagine it's something like 8,000, 9,000. Who knows, maybe
Which
even
is
10,000.
crazy. And
Yeah.
it's great to have you back, Guy, and Alex. You guys are meeting for the first time.
Yeah.
You guys were just kicking it off and chatting, so go ahead and take it back off from where you were.
Yeah, I think you had asked who is the most interesting person you've ever circled? And so that's why I was talking about the number. I'm like, man, there's been a lot of people. So I don't have anybody that stands out. And I think part of the reason is actually because I don't think it's like the most interesting person would be the most obviously interesting person to circle. People are just interesting. Like, people believe the strangest things and see things and hear things in ways that I wouldn't have ever expected. And that's kind of the thing about circling, is developing a listening for, like, to see people as a legitimate end in themselves versus kind of as a means to an end. So you just you give people that kind of space, and who kind of unfolds in front of you is, I've been so moved and like stunned and horrified and surprised at who people are. And I would especially say that the thing that seems to be where I've been the most contributed in learning how to circle for these years is watching how deeply courageous people are. Like, people are just, when you really just have anybody talk about their life, right? Like, it takes something to survive, right? And it takes, inevitably, you start to see that people become who they are through doing things that are difficult and scary, and they take a lot of courage. And so I would say that I've been deeply moved and stunned by how courageous people have been, right? And it's surprising. Yeah. So that's what I would say, right? Like, so I'm like, for example, I'm listening to you, like, this is the first time we've met, and so just listening to you, I could just tell there are just random things that you've said that I'm like, whoa, you've had quite a life, and you see things probably in a way and index your life in a way and have an intelligibility to that's really probably pretty foreign to me, that I bet, like, if we opened you up, I would learn a ton about you, and I would learn a ton about life somehow in that.
Let's open Alex up.
Yeah, totally.
Then circling, you usually kind of doing it in the group, or is it done one-on-one?
Well, I would say that it can be done in a group, or it can be done one-on-one. I would say most of the time when people think about circling, it's practiced as a group most of the time, but the principles and as a way of being is really designed. You could say that's what makes circling kind of interesting, is that there's not very many things that are specifically about the fundamental unit of relationship, right? Which is just the I-thou encounter, right? There's lots of things about, work relationships and different forms of communication and like romantic relationships. But circling happens to be just something it's like a yoga practice on the fundamental deep stretches or asanas that go into relating. And so really people do it, I think. Although the rationalist community and some of the AI people and stuff like that, I think they have different reasons for doing it. But I think mostly people do it to kind of, just like you do yoga. It's not to really get good at yoga, right? Like, it's so that when you're walking around in your life not thinking about yoga, you just respond with more balance and more openness and, more strength in your body. So I think a lot of people, the reason why they do circling is not to get good at it, but like so that when they talk to their mother, rather than like responding irritatingly, they get interested, right? Things like that.
Circling permeates into every other aspect of our lives,
Yeah, because it just seems like we're intersubjectivity through and through, all the way down, right? So like so much of our nervous system is all about being able to like be coordinated socially. Like everything that we're sitting inside of on some level has come out of some kind of conversation. So if you can make a difference at the fundamentals of relationship and intersubjectivity, and get comfortable at it, be comfortable in your own skin, exercise courage, like lean into conflict without closing off to the other person, all those kinds of things. Those are the kinds of things that have made our entire world, right?
So do you ever ask people what they're tense about at any given moment, or what they're anxious about, or what the most difficult decision they make, or what they're ruminating about right now?
Yeah.
Aren't those integral part questions to ask?
Yeah. So like we say that the practice of circling is like fundamentally it's very simple. It's like we're just being with what is, and so oftentimes people are anxious about things and are acting from that anxiety with having no awareness of it. So a lot of times somebody will point something out and then like inquire about you, and maybe they'll ask whether or not you're anxious or not, but then when they'll look, they'll go, oh, I'm actually anxious. In fact, I've been anxious for 47 years and I've never even realized it, Yeah. So I was
Never given the space to unpack one's feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah. That needs to change in our world. That's a big one.
Totally.
Giving people space to be with who they've been and who they are really authentically.
Right.
And having people that actually care sitting across from them, asking them those deep questions.
Haven't you considered circling with someone while not in say an isolated space, but rather in their home or in a place where you can access all their previous memories, or also circling with someone while showing them a very stimulating, rich environment, such as showing them a library or showing them a product catalog, or showing them the PlayStation 4 or 3 catalog, or a computer desktop with their Steam library of all their favorite games, or a website of all their favorite URLs.
Yeah, totally. Well, where I've experienced that, I would say in the most concentrated way, is what I was talking about before, where I've been hired to come and circle with families, right? And so like a family will hire me as a coach, but basically I'm circling, right? That's all I really know how to do. And I'll go and embed myself in the family and live with them for a couple of weeks. And in that case, so for example, getting to know the kids, right, is that. Like you don't sit down and just basically kind of go, hey, tell me about your feelings. They have no idea what you're talking about. But where you connect with them is through what they're interested in. Yeah. So I've learned video games, and learned how to play G.I. Joes and learn all the names through getting to know them. But the thing about circling is, I think the thing is that people don't even realize that there's a whole world and that world determines so many things, which is the recognition of the intersubjective space, right? And it's a space that most human conversations have an aboutness to it. So it's triangular in that sense. So it's there's me, there's you, and then there's what we're talking about. Then there's a whole, and usually the me-you connection, right, gets sublimated through that connection, right? There's a whole connection being made, but it's never becomes the topic of what we're talking about. When you kick out the leg of the about, and then you just touch into the immediate space right here, a lot of people feel this sense of aliveness and trippiness, and it can evoke a lot of anxiety, but could also be the space of a lot of intimacy. So a lot of circling is introducing people to that there's such a space. So many times, people have had billions of conversations, but they've never had one where we were like, hey, what's going on right now with us? We usually fight like that, but we don't really actually kind of touch in and go, how am I affecting you? How are you affecting me? Are we good? Are you anxious? Do you feel like you want to,
requires high openness and high vulnerability to be able to do that, because we put up walls to prevent ourselves from having that exact conversation.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
That one's so important. Such a good one.
Therefore, when people start to circle, just by getting present to what's so, it also, if you really kind of look into your own life, most of people's deep hurts and trauma like have to do with other people, right? They have to do with betrayals in relationships, like places where they felt that they've let someone down or they've been let down, right? Like some kind of affront to like this bond here. Most traumas have to do with that, when somebody that loves us like abuses us, right? Like, so if you start to get present to like what's right here, right now, and it has to do with relationships, oftentimes what ends up coming up is a lot of the stuff that they talk about in therapy. Although circling isn't therapy, it's not designed to heal anything, but just by getting present to our relationships and how we relate, it's linked to all those things. So a lot of times those things start coming up. So it can be really healing in that sense. You know, lots of tears, lots of emotions being invited out, like whatever's there.
Are you constantly tapping into what Guy's talking about with other people, would you say?
As in tapping into? Let me think. It could have like I think the main weakness is it doesn't have very many specific examples. It talks all in generalities, which makes it not the most original. It makes it the most original analysis to me, basically.
I'm curious, with you guys have interviewed for like what, 4 times?
Yeah.
We were having a conversation where you're talking about like it takes you're noticing it takes being around some pretty intense people, right, to be able to keep your mind stimulating. And I got this sense of like, for the full potential that's you to come out, you need a lot, like what's salient to you needs to like have lots of levels of intelligibility and dynamics and purpose and meaning for you. Otherwise you're just kind of like, your brain needs that to stay awake.
Non-redundant stimuli.
But the potential, what do you see is like, if we switched him all of the switches on?
All
like,
the switches?
Well, what's potential in it? What has you?
All the switches? Yeah, all the switches are fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alex is...
Have you ever circled someone in a bipolar mania state?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I have.
And what do you think about that? That's an interesting one.
Well, first of all, I don't think circling is a treatment for that disorder or any other.
It's not a treatment. I think a mania state enables the best out of people.
Yeah.
Do you think that too? The mania state enables the best out of people?
You know, I have some clients right now that can go hypomania, and I've been with them in those states, right? I would say as long, because here's what's interesting, is I've noticed that people who are hypomanic, when they're manic, they're brilliant. Like they'll walk out and they'll like, from one simple conversation that I wouldn't even notice, they'll hear like the God speaking to them, right? And have this intricate lattice work of meaning and connections, and because they see patterns everywhere. However, if it's not connected to like, if you follow it all the way around, if it's not connected to reality, right, it's just inherently...
Yeah, I know sometimes some bipolar people are very, very well grounded in reality.
Yeah.
It's just that for whatever reason, there's a lot of them aren't allowed the opportunity to be grounded in reality. They aren't allowed to have the ability to fearlessly experiment with all of their beliefs about themselves and how they interface with the world. And it seems that they're socialized out of like having the most radical beliefs of changeability. Like I think one common fault of bipolar is ascribing excessively high agency to what really is magical thinking, which then and then the problem is that people can't discuss those with anyone or self-correct those with anyone, and then that's and because of this, it leads to the states when they actually are bipolar manic, where they actually do things that are harmful, and oftentimes in no one else's presence because they're just so scared.
Yeah, totally.
Like I have a friend who just went through a bipolar manic episode, and oh my god, fuck, it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was?
For
it
example,
like?
spending sprees. You think because oftentimes people in mania they have a very strong desire to make sure to basically relieve everything that's frustrating them, or relieve their there's a higher source of anxiety. So sometimes what they do things like the most expensive way of relieving their anxiety, like booking last minute plane tickets or booking last minute hotels, or just anything to basically get out of this internal self frustration.
Yeah, totally. Now, Is that enough stimulation for you, being around somebody who's hypomanic? What does that bring out in you?
Most people who are hypomanic don't express their mania around me.
Yeah.
So I have never.
Bummer.
We should also talk about it when it does get expressed in its absolute best as well.
Yeah.
So when a lot of people can call it flow,
Yeah.
right? The deepest cognitive instincts when we're just in that state of just chasing after our North Star with no obfuscation, with no distraction, with just hyper focus.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that can get triggered by all different types of behaviors. Sometimes aloneness. Sometimes when you're with people and the conversation is you're feeling that point. Like there was a moment when you like directed the attention towards like asking a question about like maybe the relationship between Alex and I had to I felt myself like adjust to like be ready to address. Otherwise I was like more, kind of like relaxing. So, and to be able to actually tap deeper into one's own physiology when things like that happen, and when we're at these extremes of our own personality as well, and be able to self-reflect on that at the most granular level, that things like circling, things like being vulnerable and emotionally intelligent, these are the practices that even today, 50 years ago, men weren't, they didn't have to know these things as much. But today it's like, no, men have to be emotionally intelligent now. So there's like a whole new role of development that's actually happening, and especially for like Gen Z kids that are being born into the world.
Right.
Another whole new role. They're also having to steward Earth and be emotionally intelligent and make financial success. Like there's like now the burden's
Yeah, totally. And intersubjectivity is something, and being able to weave in and out of those spaces is something that's like seems like it's becoming more and more crucial, but we get less and less practice of it, right, with it. We were talking a little bit about this before. I think the introduction of, actually I think it started with the answering machine, and then texting and email and all the different iterations of that was, for the answering machine, basically if I wanted to exchange information with you, I had to call you, right? The introduction of the answering machine was the first time where you could kind of like relay in some kind of immediate way information without having to do the awkward social dance called talking, which is filled with ambiguity, right? So, and then that turned into texting and all.
And now you have people like Alex who prefer texting, right? Prefer messaging over talking. Is that true, Alex?
Generally, I mean, the optimal interface is where you're able to do both at the same time. Where if you're talking, it's being automatically transcribed as your talk, or it's being, or like it's doing automatic, like micro expression, real-time micro expression evaluation as you're talking. If all this can be captured in video right now, this will be optimal, so that you can back reference and search, and then build on choosing, so that things are cumulative rather than repetitive.
Yeah.
So with Alex, there's been moments where I've been wondering about because he has the deep like eccentric behavior, and that can sometimes like penetrate the social spheres in ways that like make people like feel different, a lot different. Yeah. And so I'm curious, when you've identified people that behave slightly like differently around like social norms and stuff, where do you see that, like what has been some of your what have you seen within that?
Man, I tell you what, I see that more than I ever would have even predicted that I would see that, because it's the people that I've been around or introduced. I think just being in the Bay Area and then being around the kinds of spaces that how those spaces go are going to be the things that like determine what happens in the entire world, right? And I watched that happen really fast. So I actually don't know what to make of it. I found myself like, I have found myself with people who are like that. I've just come to find out that they ended up being a level of smart and intelligent and interesting, like in ways that that I'm continually impressed by. And I also think that there's something to not having, one of the things I hear from like a lot in the rationalist community, right, is they look at a lot of the warmth that people consider really good. They look at it and they see it as kind of like local optimizing, and they don't quite get it, right? They literally go like, this just seems like a bunch of local optimizing. Everybody's kind of lying to each other, right?
Lying? Really?
Yeah, like from their view, because I think that seems to be that they don't get the same thing out of like a big, let's say, heart connection, right? And they don't get all the they don't get the same information from that, right? So they're like, okay, we just talked about that. Okay, now how will this help us change the world? How will it change the world? So it's
like what's next?
Yeah.
Versus being present with what just happened and finding that to be really profound and impactful.
Yeah.
I follow. Sometimes I have a similar response to some circling as well.
Right.
So I can resonate with that, but I don't use the word lying. I think that's quite ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's like their worldview contrasting with yours. Like people are different colors on the color wheel. Some want to.
I think people
up.
have a role for both, and the problem is oftentimes circling. Right now, people circling do the schedule as an appointment rather than as an as-needed scene. I think the moments when people need the circling reflection
on demand.
Yeah, on-demand circling would be the type that benefit people who are like trying to think about the future all the time, but still have the moments where they would rather be present, except they can't predict those.
Yeah.
I'm curious with Alex specifically, and with people that are also like really eccentric. I've seen now several times where even my behavior as well, I'm hyper eccentric as well, not quite as much as Alex in some ways, but what I've seen with my own behavior is that my eccentricity will help me achieve certain vertical networking, like I'm like hardcore trying to like reach people and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it surprises me.
And then at the same time, I want to kind of stay with that for a second. Why did you just say that?
Yeah.
Because of all the famous people you've reached out to and that damn network you have. It's with people I thought that I can't reach, or most people I know can't fucking reach.
Okay, so now this is interesting, because the reason why I said exactly what I said is because I'm curious in terms of one's ability to find themselves in their most self-actualized and self-transcendent states. I feel as though having some degree of desire to dive deeper into that really granular emotional intelligence space, where we're not just kind of like whatevering eccentrically across the world, but that we're like also able to like take ourselves into a meta perspective and be like, how did I just behave in that social situation, and why did that person just disconnect from me?
Yeah.
Because I think that can help a lot. And this has happened to me so many times, Alex, and I know it's happened to you as well, but that when we can make behavior that triggers people to want to take a step back from us, I think it's important for us to be able to really reflect on our own behavior and think, what is most optimal for my own self-actualization and transcendence? What is most optimal? And for and for others as well.
Oftentimes not everyone is forgiving. That's the issue. I think people who are like high kindness and super reasonable are willing to give other people second chances. Except, I don't think there is a social product culture for second chance, and we can't necessarily abide by policy of giving second chance to everyone either.
Yeah.
What do you think about Guy, Alex?
So I know he's involved in the circling community, which I still don't have like very much object level knowledge of who he is, maybe because there's like a lot of sensitive information disclosed during circling that he's unable to say, and because of this, it's like you're still like more of a procedure, or like I don't see the intensely high kind of edginess that I find is optimal for my flow, basically. But I mean, I still appreciate speaking with you because I know you're important for a lot.
I would also say that, Alex, you move so fast that I think sometimes what gems people have that could help you go past you. Like you may not see the fit of those gems in your life because you're moving so fast.
Yeah. And also because I think medium asymmetry, because I'm a text person, I'm an internet person, and unfortunately most people are not.
What does that mean to be a text person or a
Internet person? I prefer email. I prefer messages. I prefer, it seems like, cumulative, or just ways where you can have where you can provide an extended response answer, that where you don't necessarily think of the first response, but rather are trying to accumulate knowledge for entire history, and you give them time to have a more solid experiences, so that you can't determine like optimal fit or like optimal communication.
Right. Yeah.
For me, what I'm noticing is that there's constantly an urge within me to like want to help someone else, like in this case Alex, like potentially see some of the gems that like slowing down and understanding emotional intelligence more deeply, how it could like help.
Well, I don't know if you, like, one of the things I don't know. I think it would be presumptuous to assume that you could slow down.
Okay.
Or that that's desirable.
Right? I could slow down, I guess.
Yeah, but like what happens when you try to slow down? Like how would it make sense for you to slow down?
Yeah. Also, I could, let's say,
Yeah, I'm imagining that I'm getting the sense of, for example, when I look at you and I look at you versus when you look at him and I look at him, what you see, I have a feeling isn't necessarily the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that's probably true about even like a mom and a dad and their child, right? You know,
Yeah.
that kind of,
Totally.
even that close, yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I notice I'm kind of a little bit back and like kind of like letting you unfold and just getting a sense of like, oh yeah, you're like an interesting human being, man. Like you see things very, very differently.
Versus the way we all see like a coffee cup's like pretty similar.
Yeah.
Versus another human is completely different.
Right. So for example, when you're like, I prefer multi-level perspectives, ideally text and multi-positions all at once.
History streams, transcripts,
all those kinds of things.
Edges of the internet.
So for example, it occurs for you is that's the most optimal way to do it, and it just doesn't occur for me like that. Like, so I'm like, there's some way that you're viewing things differently than me. So I just find I just has me get interested in how you see things, you know. But what is it? What is? I'm curious to know what is the potential, right, in you, and what do you see the potential in him? That if all of his switches were unlocked, right, all of your potential, that like you want to be around really stimulating people because you come on board a lot more. Like if you fully came on board, what's potential in you? That's a good breath. Is this you slowing, like kind of consciously slowing down?
It's also trying to figure out what I should say, and I know I'm underperforming relative to my potential. I think most people are, for that matter, too. I think the level at which I'm underperforming is much, much higher than the level that other people are underperforming. It's like, also trying to communicate to in a way that allows me to be at my best, and in terms of affecting something that makes it relevant long term, or also affecting a sort of change that also kind of like makes my ability of high agency sustainable, super high agency sustainable for as long as possible, especially in the future if, say, like now we have amazing technology, better technology than before. So it's like and we have the capacity to basically like do. We have computational power. So it's really important to know that we have computational capacity now that we haven't had in decades past, which is really important. But sadly, I think it seems like advances in society and people's social OSs haven't kept up with this advanced computational capability, which is like the main reason why most people and most black people are way underperforming their potential right now.
Right. What do you see? Like, what has you interview him 4 times? Like,
it seems as though his switches are already mostly on every day, like to almost their fullest. Like I do think that when Alex
not all the fullest.
Not all, but I do think that when
They're
Alex
still not remotely near it.
Yeah, when Alex says that most people perform under their potential, but Alex is closer to his potential.
No, I'm not closer to my potential. No.
That is what you just said earlier.
No, that was not what I said. I said I think most people are underperforming. I think the level at which I'm underperforming is much lower than the level at which most other people are underperforming.
Which is very similar to what I just said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but point is that the way that, like, if you take something like who you are as your unique personality right now, and you keep running with that, you'll achieve whatever you set out to do. If you take something along the way, like a gem that someone may be passing along to you that may be helpful, it may augment, it may just deter you potentially away from that. So I don't actually know what thing is here. This would be like, for example, me, like last night when I was asking you questions about how to become a better interviewer, because you've been dishing me some feedback, and like, if I took the gems that you were passing along to me, if I integrate them into my essence and run with them, it likely is going to help me a lot. If I don't, then it'll likely deter me away from what the fullest potential could be. So it's just things like that. So it's also, this is a major part of circling, just being with who he is, period, and being with who you are, period, without wanting to do things like, hey, take this feedback that I'm delivering you and see how it affects your life.
Yeah.
These are the differences, I think.
Totally.
Yeah, between the ways that people can engage with each other.
Right.
With, if I'm willing to just ask, what about you? How do you look? How do you behave when all your switches are turned on?
Actually, before we do that, so the thing I was caught by, right, when you were talking about, like, when you brought up with him, I think that if you were to slow down, there's like some gems in there, but you operate so fast. What I perceived actually was you were caring about him. He was caring about you. Like you can tell, like, he's been tracking you. He's noticed patterns, right? He's got his eye on something potential in you, wants the best for you, and he was like, so he pointed that out.
Well, I know, because I constantly ram against. People often get frustrated with me. But frustration is not a sign of the highest emotional intelligence, but rather, the point beside, I often ram myself against walls because I seem to practice the same ineffective strategies, without being aware of the broader context of where I operate in, which some label as stubbornness, but others can label as maybe I'm just trying to get a world model across, where the problem, of course, because it's recorded, I have more confidence that everything I'm saying is going to matter. Whereas, but when I'm talking in person interaction, and most of the time in general, it's just, yes, I'm talking too fast. Most people are going to forget everything. I'm going to forget most things. It's a wreck. But anyways, go on.
So like the thing I was like, I just realized this is like, I think I assumed, but it was more like a feeling that's like, oh, he's caring about you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Right.
Like, it also it shows in a non-obvious way, like not in the ways I immediately perceive it as.
Yeah, totally. Now that I point it out and you perceive it, like, what happens for you? Are you like, oh yeah, like, I like you caring about me?
It's like, so it's like people sometimes are picky about how it's received in other people. Like, But you have to, like, for example, this is why people are like non-responsive to parental care, because because the way parents care about you is not expressed in the ways that they understand the best, and sometimes it's expressed in forceful ways, which causes like adverse reaction. But on the other hand, you have to be aware, even if you're a rationalist, or even you have to think about this. If you're a rationalist to optimize for your own utility function or something, you have to be able to express accept in all ways, and but still, like, hard. It's just hard to express. And most people just don't have like insane levels of verbal agility. Some people have higher levels of emotional agility. Like some people, they get so much reward based on appearing to care about you, perhaps more than they do. Like if you're an attractive girl, for example, a care from an attractive girl seems to matter a lot more than caring from someone who doesn't seem to be, who hasn't been optimized to basically express those affectionate feelings as much, even though the attractive girl probably has millions of other people to, let's say, care about or do, and like they probably don't necessarily care about you as deeply as, say, someone who isn't as good as expressing it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you have a high level, I'm experiencing is having a high level of, when you respond, when you speak, you take things and you put them in language, right, and in terms and as in data, really, really fast, and things that I think I just know by feeling it somehow, like without being as explicit. This is the thing I'm just noticing.
That's good stuff. Guy, that's good stuff.
Noticing stuff that's not explicit.
Yeah, there's like a certain level, I think, and this has actually come from just working with a lot of people who.
It's like when you feel the oneness and then you try and put it into words.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, there's just a sense of, there's a certain kind of like, and I wonder about this, like, so we were talking about autism before, right? Is it like, because I heard autism, one of the things that it does is that people who are autistic have less the ability to cognize at a certain level of abstraction, so they know something through like a more of a literalization. That's what I've heard, and that makes sense. And I think that there's ways in which I notice when I'm around people like rationalists and stuff like that who their IQ is like so fast. I don't even think I can like perceive of it. I always like to joke my IQ's low, but it's big. But the sense that I think that we do get hit with a level of abstraction, like, oh, you care about him. I can feel that, right? And then I can bring it into slowly bring it into terms. But one of the things that I've noticed is that they're so it's so complicated. Social interactions and social rules and all of those kinds of things are being around people that want to get good at that and abstract out those rules and then enact those rules like consciously I'm impressed. It's a lot of work to do. It's a lot of work to do.
Dan, what you just said a little bit ago is like such a major key, that we don't actually need to apply words to feelings. And so if we can tap deep into the catalog of feelings, intersubjective feelings that we can feel with other people, we don't need to put words on them, because you and I just look at each other and we go,
right.
And then from that moment, like even Alex and I, when you're like, oh, there was some care there, Alex and I were kind of just like, and we had that moment too. And those, like, we don't need to be like, well, that was because you said that we care about each other, and that's why we looked at each other, and we looked at each other like we actually like recognized what you said, and that was really profound for both of us. Like, we didn't need to do that whole stream of thought that went into space. We just felt and understood that. And so, Alex, that can actually be like a compression algorithm. Feelings, like understanding algorithm. So like looking at someone else in the eyes and feeling a deep, visceral love towards them, and then feeling that towards you. That feeling right there, cataloged, is like one of the best like feelings for most people.
If it's believable.
I tend to not surround myself with people that make it feel like it's not believable.
And this is
that's
actually
good.
the thing this is actually the thing that I hear a lot is like, that's what I was saying about, like, I summarized as, like, they said, like, yeah, this seems like people talking about, like, intersubjectivity just seems like a lot of local optimizing, right? And everybody's sitting
Yeah,
there
I
lying
think
to each other,
oftentimes-
right? I think it's kind of a little bit like
Also,
that, right?
the more you're open about you are about yourself to the rest of the world, to other people, like the more they know about you, the more they know your entire history stream, the more lovable you are to the non-haters, to those who see the best in you, to empaths of the future. Because I think everyone seems to be grown up surrounded by haters and criticism, and they guard themselves against haters and criticism, which is why they're so afraid of being open. Which is one of the reasons why they're so afraid of being open about themselves to everyone else. Which is why they contain everything, self-contain everything. It's like we're just raised to believe that people don't necessarily want the best for us.
Right.
Well, our social fabric needs to change from the self-dealing culture to the inclusive fitness culture. Yeah, that's a scale problem that we've had from our family values not scaling. Yeah.
Right.
But this is all changing, where it feels as though you can walk up to someone else. Like, again, you're really trying to selectively curate the people that you hang out with, period. But then those people that you do meet, even for the first time in person, or even a friend brings someone else, and you give them that really long, warm hug, and you're looking at each other in the eyes, and you're like, wow. And what does care mean? For some people, it means financial care. For some people, it means the deep emotional care, asking people questions, getting to know who they are. For other people, there's all different ways of expressing care. And so, so which one of those, are all of them? And so, I've like I don't expect anything besides like your deepest presence and love and care, like when you're here with me, and that good things are going to come up during that time.
What are you hearing him say?
Like expressing care in different ways, and what do you make of those who, what exactly does it mean to have like care? And it's like you have to be like maximally, holy shit, I just remember what the weird dreams I had last night, but anyways, it's like almost, it's also like there's also a distinctive difference between caring about someone and, say, just enjoying the presence. There seems to be a difference, like you control someone and totally enjoy the presence without necessarily care about them internally. And even then, you can care about someone. Even if you care about someone, you can care about someone without necessarily caring deeply about their entire emotional states. Even though it's not necessarily care in the most mature form, it's important to, like, I think caring. One can say that caring is a beautiful thing, irrespective of whether or not it manifests itself in the most complete form of caring in all respects. Even some forms of caring of being cared about is far more important than none.
Yeah, totally. I think that's a big distinction about enjoying your presence and genuinely. There's definitely different levels of care, right? Different levels of importance.
Oh yeah, and also sometimes a lot of people who do care about you, just oftentimes care about whether or not you integrate well in the social fabric, which then like leads to really huge fights between family members or people who care about or are concerned about you. This is like one of the huge cases where, say, there is, or even like people who care about gays and whether or not they can socially integrate within the rest of society, which then results in what some call tough love, in which case caring can totally backfire if caring is co-present with authoritarian traits. But anyways, that's beside the point. The point is, I think there are forms of care that are nothing but good, and it feels amazing if you know you have it.
Let's ask Alex about what are some of the deepest emotions that you felt with yourself and with others.
Oh God. So Yeah, this is kind of sad because I'm not. I'm having a weird childhood and having a weird developmental history as I've had. I'd love to have super close friends, but I'm not super close with anyone, and I think a certain component of me is missing because I haven't had that experience, even though I totally want it. Yeah.
I feel similarly.
How do you know that you want it?
Oh, because I know what the feeling feels like. I can describe it in words later. I've almost had experience with people when I was really young. Like, oh my God, let's be friends. Let's explore the world together. The entire world is in their hands.
Yeah.
And then you definitely have a sense when you're 13 or 14 years old, and you meet other say people of the same age who are just who the entire world is ahead of them, and you just want all your joys to be shared with them, and you want to tell everything to them. You just want to share their entire life with them.
Yeah.
And I've had the experience with them. There are moments of my life where I kind of had that experience with them, but then something fell apart, and then it's harder to recreate a little bit later on, sadly.
Right. So you've experienced those feelings before.
Yes.
And it's become more like, it sounds like it was more common when you were younger and less as you get older. Right. Do you know why? Do you have a sense of why?
Part of it is, I think most people don't have the sense of unlimited time or unlimited possibility, especially when they get trapped in, when you're trapped with a desire to, like, say, signal. Like, even I got trapped by the stupid signaling phenomenon where I had to, like, get the highest, where I had to, like, self-study as many APs as possible or shit like that. Or get the highest SAT subject as possible, or and that's just like experience where you just hide yourself from other people in order to get the high score or get the highest grades possible. That also tends to, like, close yourself off, insulate you off from let's say truly meaningful, amazing relationships and friendships. And I think a lot of people also feel like time is running out, in a sense, and it's a certain point where it happens to everyone, basically. Like, the sense of presence just isn't there.
Well, which one do we optimize for? Certain people optimize for doing the super connecting and generalizing their network like that. Other people go deep into just 3 people and feel the really deep emotions with just 3 people. So
Totally.
yeah.
But I'm just struck by that. Like I think you said, it's kind of a little sad. What do you think about it? Like, because you want something, and it's not there.
Oh yeah, it totally enables the best of other stuff. Like, I know some of people that are from talk about, like, how love is like an energizer. It energizes you in a way that very few other emotions do. It makes you be at your best. Yeah.
That's a good one.
I know. Being married is like, I'm shocked at, like, how much being married has actually affected me. Like, my whole how it's affected not just the experience of the relationship, but what having that solid in the background has done to the way I operate in the world, right?
Yeah.
It's really intense. And I think this starts to get into things about attachment, right? Like, what they're understanding. I think they can even measure it now, right? Like the biology of the way human beings attach to one another. And this whole notion of that.
Yeah.
When you have people that you know, without a doubt, care about you, right? That if I come to you in distress, right, you will reassure me, even above and beyond what you feel about my immediate state of being in that moment. Even if it's offensive to you, if I get that you care about me unconditionally, no matter what, and you have 1 or 2 of those relationships in the background, there's a way in which you can kind of, like, I've noticed this for myself. There's a way in which I can open up to the more and more ambiguity. I can tolerate more ambiguity in the world because there's this sense of, like, in the background.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I don't have that tolerance for ambiguity, which is why I'm so fucking neurotic still, for example.
Yeah.
So then it's almost as though attachment to an unconditional love gives us the ability to pursue and browse the world we live in more freely, or with a different level of security and intensity than potentially if we didn't have a pillar of unconditional love behind us. Where was it for you that was not there?
Expecting love from the wrong people and burning out heavily on them, getting myself too attached to the first smart people I knew when they weren't necessarily wholesome. And this is a problem everyone has growing up because everyone is not exactly surrounded by the people that they should be surrounding themselves with. And it's just also times when I've often noticed this with classmates from middle school, how sometimes people are like, why the fuck are we friends with each other? Especially after they discover new people outside of their school. That it's a common realization.
Yeah. Where you think it's like that the connection is a genuine you and me when it actually is context dependent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you leave that, and then that can be a really kind of disheartening break.
Yeah, I know one thing is that I'm very familiar with the early entrance program at the University of Washington. It produces a lot of very strong friendships, or at least for a while. On the other hand, it's a very intense experience. It captures you in such an early point in life. And it's like, I've seen some of the amazing friendships come out of it, but I also noticed that they're not necessarily the deepest friendships or relationships, especially like if you select for academic hyper performance, it also like tends to select against developing being more wholesome. I think like the early entrance program you got has so much potential, but it could like use more circling in it, or just more emotional intelligence and awareness, because it's like, I think it's one of the true gems of the world in some ways.
What's the? I want to make sure check in. What's the true gem of the world?
Early entrance program at the University of Washington.
Yeah.
Early
entrance program where you enter college.
Early entrance.
Yeah, where you enter college at like age 14 or 15.
Yeah. God, I just think that's a whole what you're talking about, like that level of intelligence so early on, where you're in a context that like with people that are so much older than you are. That's just got to be its own ride. Right?
People people imagine this more than it actually is the case. I think.
Okay. Yeah, I must be one of them. One of them.
Yeah.
I just noticed that as we're talking about like this place where it's like, oh yeah, you want something and it's been hard for you to have it, and it seems like one of the best things in the world, right? And you struggle with having that to some degree now. Like I just noticed I feel that care feeling for you. Right? Like there's a sense of just like, I'll be your best friend. Like,
but you feel it with a lot of other people, and I think a lot of people feel frustrated with you sometimes because they know you're there for them, but they also know that you're all over, you're scattered across so many other people that you can't just you just can't be there for them all the time unless you replicated 100 copies of yourself.
Yeah, totally. I'm working on that.
But
I'm working on that. Yeah.
Yeah,
there's a way in which there is something distinct about. And this is how people experience families a lot, where actually their family is not somebody that they would like hang out with or necessarily enjoy each other's company, but there's a sense of like where they know that if things went south, their family would be there.
Yeah.
Right? There's that level of like understanding or bond. And unfortunately, I think in a lot of families, they what is possible is to have more of like the authentic, like emotional connection too. At the same time, but so for example, like so if being like, for example, if I was like, all right, let's be best friends, like I enjoyed your smile. What would be like? Would there be anything in the way of that, you think?
Oh man, I remember this. The first time when I was playing, I asked someone, let's be friends, when I was like 11 years old. I used to say this to all people, like a lot of the time when I playing like Age of Empires 2, and I just, whenever someone's the same team as me, I just add into my friends list and just like, say, can we be friends? And oh my god, I actually really appreciate some of the friendships that formed as I was making a simple request out of people I was the same team with.
Yeah.
I think that's like the most natural and organic way to make friends.
Right, totally.
Yeah, my Age of Empires 2 plays the Age of Empires 2 days were like so formative. I consider those to be the most important, literally one of the most important things to happen ever to me. Discovering
Yeah.
Age of Empires 2. Yeah.
Discovery is the last thing. Age what?
Age of Empires 2 is
Empires
one of the
2.
most important things to have ever happened to my life, and I'll tell it to everyone flat to their face.
It's a super
Yes.
fun
Yes,
civilizational
it's
development game.
Yes, it's important as, let's say, discovering Cora or Peter Thiel on that level of importance.
A lot of people mention that early video game days were very important for their.
Yeah, oh, you also know this. Yeah. Man, fuck boomers, but go on.
Right. Fuck boomers.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
What's that
That's
statement?
funny.
What do you mean, fuck boomers? I don't
Like
know if
older people that didn't grow up playing video games, so they don't necessarily
Yes.
catch the same
Yes.
worldview
Yeah.
drift.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And another part of this that I think's so interesting for me, at least, is that I just feel as though so much of conversation that happens in these chairs, especially this conversation, has been so heady, so like intellectual. Like even though we were talking about unconditional love, was like so intellectualizing it. Like we weren't really like dropping in much throughout this conversation into the things that like Guy does all the time when he circles with people. And sometimes when we feature different people here, that we drop in more emotionally into what's present and what's happening.
Yeah, dropping on more emotional, I'd love to experience that.
Yeah, well, so for me, so I think I just did a little bit of where, one is just hearing about like, oh, like there's something that you want in your life that's like you have a hard time finding and you feel sad about it. Like I just felt
that was a big one for me too.
I just felt like
I had a major gratitude for my mom and my uncle and Ron. Yeah.
right.
Oh, I love your gratitude. I really appreciate your gratitude a lot.
Yeah.
I love when people talk about the parents and their formative experience of the parents and how much the parents mean to them, as long as the parents also don't hold them back from higher optionality.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel your emotions in your face. And
Really?
Am
I actually expressive emotionally?
like moments
saw that too, yeah,
where
yeah.
it's almost like a pre-reflective or an involuntary smile.
Okay.
Like
Wait, do I seem autistic to you?
What's that?
Do I seem autistic to you?
something like that. I'm not exactly. I don't. Like I was saying, I don't even know what autism
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
It's just the neurodiversity is raw with him. It's like,
Yeah.
like I said when we first saw each other again today, is that Alex is the most like underrepresented character archetype in the video game of Civilization.
Yeah.
Like so few people have his personality traits in the game,
Yeah.
and so that's what makes it very exciting, I think. And I think we need to be very careful with like the way that we like put words about people onto them, because then
Yeah.
that
I'm very cautious about that
very
stuff.
very
Yeah.
cautious. Yeah, I would. It's like way better to just be like hella unique. Like I love this. Yeah, the character and like that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I love the praise oftentimes. I really appreciate it. Whether the praise translates to care on the long term is a different scene, and I think people can be better at maintaining the sense of caring that comes from praise, and maybe not seeking out praise for its own sake, but also like you can praise celebrities all the time, but sometimes people praise celebrities ends up being praise for shitty people in the long run.
What is your the praise? Like, how do you experience the praise?
Oh
love
God,
it. Yeah.
yeah.
What
It's
does it
amazing
do?
at the moment. It used to be. I used to seek that type of praise, like those people who make the news for winning some academic award or for doing something beastly like self-studying 22 APs or something else similarly extreme that shows that they're superhuman or beyond everyone else. That's the type of praise that I sought for, and I sought for it in the wrong place. That traumatized myself thinking it for it, even though I actually know it's actually easier to do this than other people simply by like producing yourself at your maximum output and your best, and not necessarily going by predefined things like fucking college board tests or whatever.
Right.
Even though I admit I fucking love the College Board in a lot of ways. But go on.
Can we go deeper into just like Alex and his switches and the unconditional love, and just like I want to see if Alex can we like drop into his heart and his gut?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I think I'm realizing is like I notice I'm like. Well, I don't want to say cautious, but I'm just aware of like what even dropping into your heart means for you, right? Like how we would know. One of the things that I'm just kind of picking up a little bit is that it seems like when you're feeling something, it seems like I can feel it, and you're still talking just as fast.
Yeah.
Laying it all out, but there's an animation. There's like a
There is a
quality to it that I something gets communicated for
hyper
me.
emotive through facial expression, but then it's moving as fast as everything else was. But it maybe lingers a little bit longer.
Totally,
Yeah.
and it makes me just has me just get more interested in you, and
Me too.
There's like a feeling of adoring, almost like there's something like that seems a little minimizing. It's not exactly how I that could come across as minimizing. It's not that. There's just like
I feel the same adoration. Yeah.
what you said when the people in your school, right? You thought they were good, they were wholesome, and they weren't. Like you bonded with
I
them
didn't
too
necessarily
quickly.
think they were wholesome. I bonded over them being impressive in certain narrow domains. I still think the G factor is like the most important scene, but it just
G factor,
the G factor.
meaning the
General intelligence.
general intelligence.
Yes.
And that incorporates which aspects of intelligence?
It incorporates. It's like the thing that correlates most with all aspects of intelligence. So now I believe that
Like, does that include IQ and EQ? Or what aspect?
it includes both IQ and EQ.
Yeah.
And what other things does it include?
But on the other hand, it's IQ. I think IQ does show IQ. To have EQ at the highest levels requires generally very high IQ. Though you could be a dog and still like be super attentive emotionally in ways that most people are not.
Conscientiousness is another aspect of general intelligence.
I would not necessarily say so.
You wouldn't? One's ability to follow through on things that they say that they're going to do?
I think that's completely that's totally orthogonal to general intelligence in the general population.
Yeah. The thing
Quite
I would
interesting. I thought it was the second greatest.
what I was gonna say is like I was almost just getting ready to say it before we asked about the G word.
Yeah, go ahead.
Was
Deal with that.
was actually I was like, oh yeah, like what I'm getting about you is you're good. Like you're good. Like I just get this kind of gestalt sense of like, oh yeah, I don't doubt your intentions. Like I can tell, I can somehow pick up just your sense of like you'll care about people, you'll be responsible. I guess all the things that you said about general intelligence. But I think I was kind of like overwhelmed with a sense of that or a recognition of that. Like I was like, I could totally see becoming really good friends with you. Yeah. What?
We're also all good and
Yeah.
evil. That it's not.
Oh,
just,
totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
And where's Alex's shadow? Do we know? Does Alex know?
I'm impatient.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure we'd find out. Give it enough time, we'd find out. Like for you, like you've been getting, it sounds like you guys have a relationship. Like you guys have like you've interviewed 4 times, you've got like,
Yeah.
What's your experience of like your relationship with him? Do you feel closer to him over time?
Yeah, closer over time for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
What about you? What's your experience of him?
Yeah, I really appreciate you a lot. Yeah, and it's amazing being with you, and I think I have to get to know you better more. But yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
What's the part that like that was like, oh yeah, there's I could get to know you more.
Yeah.
What do you have a sense of like what it is that you don't quite know about him yet? Or is there some place where there's like hesitation or that you don't quite understand, or like what's your, or that sense of just like, oh yeah, we haven't spent enough time, therefore my nervous system isn't totally relaxed around you, or do you have a sense of it?
Me, as in
Towards him, yeah. Just in terms of like, let's
I think
just say,
well,
let's just say
different
we're interviewing him
we
to
just
be your
have
best
very
friend,
different.
right?
We have I have very different social APIs from most people, and I think this limits closeness with most people I've discovered.
So what that's another term, social API? What's that?
Maybe like social algorithms.
Oh, okay,
The
got it.
structures that Alex
Okay.
uses when he interacts with people are different. The protocols,
Yeah.
and I have a high degree of open-mindedness towards like what Alex is. Period. And, and every time that I hang out with him, I learn more and more about him, and it's very fun. It's just that there is something about there's something about a world that is seemingly heading towards excessive self-dealing rather than the global kin fitness that we so need of like inclusive stakeholding.
Do I seem excessive self-dealing?
No. Not saying that because of Alex. No, Alex. Not saying that because of you, but just that in general, it's becoming quite hard to figure out like what people are about at their deepest essence, and like how much they really care about just letting go of their own ego and just doing things on behalf of like upgrading the world around them, and just, you know, being cool with just passing after that. Now it just seems as though it's like everything's like super like anti-aging, let me live forever, let me make trillions of dollars, it's just like it's going kind of craziness in that direction. So anyway, maybe that's some sort of a projection from me of the way that I see some of the civilization's direction. But on a more intimate, like personal level, when you become a super connector, when you're super connected to like hundreds of people, you're not intimately connected with 3, let's say. And that ability to dive deep into like an unconditional love with one person, like being able to like call someone and be like, hey, I need to talk like really deeply about my feelings, or hey, I need $500, or hey, like will you come and help me move, or whatever those things are. Like they're just not as readily present because of the self-dealing social fabric. So I think these are all so intertwined.
Well, there's something about like I had this kind of insight a couple months ago. Have you seen Braveheart?
It was just really nice when you.
The soundtrack of it.
I hadn't had. Yeah.
Right. I've watched Braveheart, I don't know, 10 times or something. You know, I grew up with Braveheart, but I'd never heard the soundtrack. Yeah.
You know the Love of the Princess soundtrack? I grew up listening to that.
Oh yeah?
Why do you bring up the Braveheart soundtrack?
Well, I had this experience of like where a friend of mine played it, and we were on a road trip, and he just played it in his car, and I was like, whoa, what is this? And he's like, this is a soundtrack. And it just brought me right there with all the emotions. But I got done with that, and I got done listening to it, and I was like, you know what? I don't even think I ever even noticed the soundtrack during the movie. Right?
Yeah.
It's so interesting to like kind of like hear, because what a soundtrack has had me start thinking about what a soundtrack does, is that when it works, it disappears, right?
Yeah.
Like it's to the degree that it's not, you don't hear it explicitly, that it kind of brings the past and the future into that moment and it consolidates the mood of the movie. And I was thinking about like, well, what would happen if you watched the movie without the soundtrack, right? Or you played Metallica in the background, right?
And are you making an analogy to life?
Yeah, I'm making an analogy actually to relationships.
To relationships, yeah. Cool.
Whereas I think it's like something about, you know, I think we do have a soundtrack. We have a background, like gestalt sense, right? That
Was this song played at the right time?
yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think it's Ronnie's phone.
Right.
Yeah, he's
right.
grabbing it right now.
Totally. That's the soundtrack of my movie.
Yeah.
But this sense that even when I'm not thinking about it, right, what has that cup show up in the way that it does, there's this background horizons that are kind of like a soundtrack. And I think for us, I bet what determines the soundtrack playing in your background and my background and each other's background is actually the background of our relatedness with other people, right? So it's like if I'm estranged from my family, right, and I'm in a fight with my family, and I'll be at work and doing some menial task, and even when I'm not thinking about those relationships, on some level, that sound, it alters the soundtrack in the background. And I have this sense of just working with people of that, I've started to track that I think when people have a sense that they're cared about, right? That there are people that are walking around that if you went missing a couple of days, they would notice, or you know that people care about that you care about in your, like what you care about in your life. That it's not even that they care about the same thing, but they care that you care about things. And you have that sense of those relationships in your life. It's something that you don't leave home without, right? I think it is like kind of like the soundtrack in the movie that disappears, whether or not you're thinking about it or not. So that's the sense I get of like where I'm kind of piecing together just why I felt so kind of moved, right, when you said, and sad, and wanting for you, right, about that. I was like, oh, I almost like I heard the soundtrack in the background came forward for a moment.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it.
Do you often ruminate your songs in the background of your life? Do you often ruminate your songs in the background of your life?
Like ruminate my songs?
Yeah.
I don't know what you mean by ruminate exactly.
Like, do you often daydream songs in your life?
You know, on some level, I think what I do is I've made almost like a living off of hearing the background songs of people.
Do you ever play Final Fantasy?
Yeah.
Yeah, like a while ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those songs are like intense.
Yeah, they're very intense. Totally. But it's just interesting to me of like, that's the way that's how we organize what shows up as salient in the foreground are these background horizons of what is or isn't possible, and like how the relationships in my life are. They disappear just like the soundtrack does, but they show up in all of my immediate what becomes salient for me.
Yeah.
Right. And I just kind of like felt, I think, just closer to you. And I'm like, I keep finding myself having a sense of affinity, where I think it's something like I feel more in touch with, that you care about things in your life, right? Like that just a sense of it, you know? And yet you're really different, but there's something about that difference it feels like that difference like kind of has something come closer in me with you. What's that feeling?
Maybe I'll explain later.
Yeah. Is it? But it is a feeling. I'm reading that correctly. Yeah. See, there's a quality of like how just that you just did that tells me like what that communicates to me is just an openness, and I think there's that quality of like when I say the word good, like you're just good, like just that impulse to come grab my hand seems good to me. Touches my heart. How's it for you? I think this is the space, that kind of feeling space that you were wanting.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Affection. It's like a warmth. What about for you?
That was really beautiful.
This guy's a feeler, man.
That was great.
Yeah.
That was so wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, just being able to be with you two connecting like that was really nice. Yeah. Yeah.
For what do you mean by nice? Like
Nice, like it was human. It was really deeply human. And I think we're so disconnected from being deeply human.
Yeah.
We're disconnected from our source, from where we get all our nourishment, from our planet.
Yeah.
We're disconnected from each other at unprecedented levels with our news feeds.
Right.
It's all stacking up in ways that are exacerbated by information technology, but IT's also doing good things like connecting us around the world. There's a lot of nuance to this, but
Totally.
I miss like when people sit across from each other and then it's all like debate, head. Like that's like crazy now. Like compared to being grounded and like sitting next to someone and being like, yo, we are just human and let's drop in and realize how interconnected we are and how important, like, let's try and find, rather than try and argue our way and win, let's try and find something that maybe we can agree on by maybe steel manning each other's arguments and finding nuance.
Connection is such a beautiful scene, I will admit, though. In like when the competition and the drive to like create drama happens in like, say, low resource environments where there are too many people for other reasons that exist, and
Yeah, that's intense, Alex.
yeah, it's like I think the true contrasting forces exist because even though we would love to be in an environment of abundance, and in many ways certain people are, it's also the case that because the attention of some people is limited, and especially those who get everything, then there is a true force of scarcity that does seem to act in people, especially because we're not even sure if the planet can support this many people at the moment.
Yeah. I notice I just want people to be able to know whether or not they're in an I-it relationship or an I-thou. Like
I-thou?
Yeah.
I think in Heidegger.
Yeah, it's like, that's Buber. It's more Buber. It's Heidegger-esque,
proper-
right?
okay.
Yeah, like this, and Buber would say that,
Buber?
yeah, Martin Buber. He's a
Okay.
Jewish philosopher, theologian, existentialist.
Okay.
But he would say that, existentially, we are in one of two relationships all the time. We're either in the way he puts it, like we're either in an I-thou or an I-it. An I-it is just basically where I see whatever it is I'm comporting, you in this case, as a means to my own end. And he said there's an I that arises with it, and there's an I that arises with thou.
Yeah.
And that they're always spoken as one word, as he would say it. And I think the thing that I worry about, right, is that it seems like, and I think this has something to do with technology. It probably also has a bunch of other things to do with it.
Like the
where-
answering machine where you started us
Yeah.
a little bit ago. Yeah, keep
Totally,
keep
like
going, yeah.
where I want people to be able to not drop I-it, right? You have to function. You have to
Totally.
like instrumentalize each other and see, especially if you're doing companies and strategies and all that. But I want people to be able to know when they're in one or the other, right?
Awareness of
yeah.
one or the other, correct? Yeah.
Because I think that I have a feeling that it's becoming increasingly more rare, right? That people even know that there's such a thing as like an I-thou personal encounter, right? So they don't even know it's missing, right? Because it's like when things break down, when you're going like you have some goal, and inevitably you have stuff that comes up, and then people's emotions get put into play. And if you can't have an environment where you can stop and go, oh, wait a minute, you're being affected by this, and be able to show you that because that's the thing of like, oh, wait a minute, something matters to you. Let's kind of pause here and like,
correct, yeah.
and like be able to go into that space and start to tolerate the I that arises with thou, right? And be able to know that distinction. I remember it as it seemed when I was younger, like that. This is why I think it has something to do with technology, right? Is that when I was younger, I remember that there was like a lot more of those interactions just in the day-to-day life. And it seems to me that we're sublimating so many things that aren't about this ambiguity-filled, embodied experience that we're now having people that don't actually ever have the experience of that. And I have to think about
Agreed.
Yeah, to think of, the impact of that. I just don't know what it is,
Yeah, potentially the exponential technology era has driven us more towards the I-it rather than the I-thou. And I feel like Alex is potentially, maybe his disconnection from part of that the last couple of thoughts has something maybe to do with the level of like disconnection from this specific topic and wanting to maybe move on to other things. Yeah. And so just from me, like from what you just said, I'm so aligned with what you said. Like we need to discern between the I-it and the I-thou. We need to have the awareness to discern between those and to develop that through skills like circling deep, like emotional practice to discern between those.
Yeah.
But simultaneously having strategy. Having still its to be able to have strategy in life and with each other. But yeah. Also, on an input stream like of life, Alex brought up a little bit ago also just that like people still live in some scarce environments, and that's like a real thing. And like
that's why competition evolved. That's why putting other people down evolved. That's why people are so addicted to, say, watching people own other people, or people just dominate other people rather than people can actually essentially connect with other people. They're looking for opportunities to bring other people down rather than uplift other people, and it's hard when people have evolved into resource scarcity environments. And
yeah, because it's hard when you actually have to get behind the eyes of humans that have to live in like 3 meter by 3 meter boxes on top of each other and next to each other that barely have water and food, and then you fucking get it. Then you get the scarcity, and we have so much abundance that we're not more evenly distributing around the planet yet. And these are things that we talk about a lot, and that we talk to people that are making the augmentations in civilization to make that transition happen. Any like wrapping thoughts from you guys? Any thoughts on the way out?
What is that? Is that like?
it's sunscreen.
It's sunscreen.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Alex is sitting in the sun now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I should
more
be aware of that.
more in the sun.
A redhead.
Just a little bit
When
more in the sun.
when I have hair, I'm red, so I may walk out of this more pink than I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like how much we dived into just that there's like a deep need for more emotional connection in our world, and a deeper discernment for what's happening with like our unconditional love and our history, as well as like I really appreciated your soundtrack and the life that's happening. I like that a lot. Okay, let's wrap. You cool?
Yeah.
Totally.
All right,
See,
let's
look
wrap.
at this.
Yeah. Okay, let's look at
Read
this.
this.
Do you want me to read
Yeah,
it right
go
now
ahead.
on
Yeah.
the show?
Yeah.
Request for conversation counseling. Can I say who it's from?
Yeah. Or just don't say the name.
Just request for, okay. Hi, Alex. I came across your profile on Quora and watched some of your talks on simulation on YouTube. I'm a 21-year-old male who is unsure of which direction to invest my potential in, which path to take in life. I would really appreciate having the opportunity to talk to an intelligent mind such as yours. This is not an attempt at flattery. I'm just trying to emphasize the reason for my interest as soon as possible. A phone call would be preferred. Please let me know what time may be best for you. Wow, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So a 21-year-old male who's unsure of which direction to invest potential in, which path to take in life. This is a big deal. So because humans want to know where to, they're at forks. Humans are at forks many times when they're young, like 21. They have someone like, can they reach out to Alex? Can Alex maybe give them some good mentorship advice that can help rocket their trajectory in a direction that is more better for their actualization transcendence?
I enjoyed your smile.
Oh yeah.
Like when that came. What is that? What's that mean to you? Just getting that email.
Yes, good call.
It's hard to say at the moment. I think it's good. I'm still unsure. I'm phone calls not my preferred mode of direction at all. So it's like I still really probably want you to know his background. I think if he seems to be really seeking something, and I think if someone really believes in themselves and wants to seek something, I think it should be that. I think he just really wants something. We should acknowledge this in him, and maybe this could like be the way to unleash the potential in him. I think I really want to help him in this. Of course, I don't know him yet.
And how does one open up the bandwidth to be able to handle these types of emails? Because what if Alex's input stream is constrained to wanting to learn other stuff that day?
Yeah.
And so how do we pass along people like this to trusted?
Yeah, passing people along is super important too, because I'm known someone who can pass people along, and this is going to be important in the future.
I'm curious, without talking with him, not without having met him, just reading that,
Yeah.
what would you say? Do you have anything that you would just say?
I think I'm open. There's a range of possibilities who the person could be, so it could be huge.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So you'd actually have to talk with him.
I mean,
Or know them.
at 21, this person could be pursuing so many different paths in life. And so for Alex also, it's a lot of pressure for someone like Alex too, it's like both, Alex, would you say it's both rewarding to be viewed as someone that can help, but also a lot of pressure to help someone?
I don't feel super high, super deep emotions at the moment about it.
And why did you show it to us?
I think it was very timely.
Yeah, totally.
We were literally on the show.
I mean, it's really cool. You're definitely doing something right if you're getting communications like that.
I also think having if a lot of things happening, it seems like coincidences happen more often. And even though coincidence is like a product of magical thinking, and I think if people see coincidences happen more frequently, it gives a sense of meaningness to them, which motivates them.
That's good. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Alex showed a coincidence happening because he was, on the show again, talking about things that he found interesting. Other people were watching, reaching out, this type of thing.
And they mentioned simulation, which is exactly why I showed it.
Because we're literally on the show again. And so I think what Alex also is really pointing at here is that coincidences happen when people find themselves more and more aligning on a track.
I think if people know some people have an inkling what the future is going to be like, and they want you to be part of the future. And the problem is that all the people that they're surrounded by, all the stupid K-12 signaling is preventing them from realizing that, developing the narrative of how they can be part of the future.
Yeah.
How they can shape the future, how they can be relevant in the future. And this is like a common yearning a lot of people want. And if we can acknowledge the people who have this yearning, we can maybe better coordinate people so that they can actually reach this.
You heard that, yearning. People have a yearning to be relevant. That's one of his big things too.
Right.
That's beautifully said,
relevance.
because people do. Like, we yearn for that unconditional love. We yearn to be relevant in a highly exponential technology developing world. How do we stay relevant?
Right. Totally.
And so unschooling, doing a lot of things that Alex believes in with the K through 12 system and how it's not helping advance a lot of people's full potential.
Yeah.
That's a big way to stay relevant, is if you have influences when you're 4 years old, that you're able to pursue things that interest you rather than what a boxed system.
Yeah. It's all because it's all basically test scores and.
Even the people who are seen as doing their own scenes, as being unique, there's still the news articles on them. When people report about some teenage prodigies, they usually report on people who are teenage prodigies along certain dimensions or certain axes, such as self-studying 20 APs or being a Teal Fellow, or just doing something that celebrates academic excellence over asceticency, basically. Or just being impressive for the sake of
Yeah. I mean, I personally, I owe my life to some teachers.
Likewise.
Right.
Yeah.
Of that, but that quality of somebody sees something in me that no one else was seeing. In fact, on all the regular test scores, like I always. But they saw something.
That type is so inspiring and also like so profoundly rare. Most people do not get this type of inspiration.
That's one of the things that
the inspiration to recognize people for having talents and actions that are different from your own, or from the ones that you traditionally measure.
Well, performing low on a test score. Well, let's see what else you're really passionate about.
Sometimes performing uniquely well on the test score actually matters. Like, so this good friend of mine, Alexandra Lane, she posted some giftedness articles in Logan's Wall about say people like criticizing her for saying that they know she's good, and yet why isn't she doing as well as they think she is. She found she was like, I think she's one of the most important people I ever met, because she eggs me on to be my best, and she's like she has this weird background. She is for someone who went to Spark, she has like the weirdest background of anyone, but that's so super valuable. Like her value system is one of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Damn.
totally.
Yeah.
And if no one sees that, like people need to get that reflection of be seen and have the experience of being valued.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the big things that like we train when we're circling. It's that kind of listening where, you actually can kind of feel into like what's unique about that person and respond to it, right? To a point where they can actually come into being. That's what agape love is all about,
Also,
right?
I would really love to talk to him. I would also I know I have to offload this to people I know in the long run, but I also am not sure if there's anyone else in my network who I would be good at offloading this to at the moment. Especially because if they reach out to me, it means that they probably feel an emotional connection to me that they wouldn't feel if to someone I offloaded them to. Of course, I think the task of offloading people to other people is a very common scene. If you're already know directness enough, you pretty much have no choice but to offload.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, this is epic. This has been so good. There's a lot of good stuff in this one.
Yeah, I know people who advise Teal Fellows I praise those people all the time, but I also recognize that I can't send everyone in the network to those who advise Teal Fellows.
Yeah.
This is one of those. These are the things we talk.
Yeah.
I want a knowledge graph immediately afterward of this episode to make it really easy to parse for the key things that were discussed. So we'll eventually get to that point.
Yeah.
All right. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff, you guys.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yay.
Thank you so much for this beautiful moment. Yeah. Okay.
Aw. Big love. I'll give you guys each hugs proper after.
I feel more energetic now.
Huge shout out to everyone that tuned in and watched. We greatly appreciate it. Love to hear your thoughts in the comments below on the episode. Let us know what you're thinking. Also, we would love for you to check out the links in the bio to Simulation. Help support us, help us grow, help us prosper, help us continue impacting more people. And also support Circling with Guy, support Alex, Chen as well. Their links are below. And also, take some of the thoughts that we were talking about in this episode and share them with your friends, your family, coworkers, people online on social media. Get talking more about topics like these. And that's it, everyone. Much love. Thanks, Ron, for being back there. We appreciate it. And go and build the future. Everyone, manifest your dreams into the world. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon. Peace. That's it.